Welcome mate, I'm Bloodthirsty Lord, but you can call me Lordy and tell we're back on Paragon once again, but we're going to be on the Paragon official website where there's a blog post released not long ago talking about the Road to Monolith Part 4, where they talk about mid lane, the river buff, and so much more. So we're going to explain what those are within this video, but before we get to this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe button to keep up to date with all the greatest and latest Paragon gaming content and Paragon gaming news, and as always, expected here first. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. So let's see what Epic Games and the Paragon team had to say about this. This week we dive into the mid lane on Monolith, which is the new map, and they did talk about the other blog posts, which are Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. If you want to see them, you can click on Part 3 right now on screen, and that will take you to those videos so you can get an understanding of what is going on before we move on. They got the mini-map there with the highlighted section of the mid lane, but then also two glowing lights over there, which most likely are the river buffs that they did talk about, or what we're going to talk about very soon. So let's move on from that. Welcome to mid lane, where you're either here or feeding. Oh my god. The mid lane, the mid role have quite a legacy in the MOBA genre, and we're excited to talk about why we love this position and its importance to Monolith. What is the big deal with mid? As it's hard and MOBA is an economy game. When we look at Paragon, we see two primary resources, experience and car power. As we've discussed in the past, Monolith is an asymmetrical map, and we've built the positions to best reflect this dynamic. The safe lane is card power rich, the offlane is experience rich, the jungle has a bit of both, and the mid lane has it all. That's why it's special. The mid player is able to do more in the early and mid phases of the game due to the relative power of that role. Ability focused heroes are typically favored in this position due to their high scaling with experience and card power. And then we have a picture of Howitzer in the mid lane, with some actual visuals of Monolith, in-game photos of it. You can see how the map pretty much corresponds with the position he's in, and it looks pretty sick. So pretty much you got the actual tower, you got some river going through there, to the enemy tower, and your tower pretty much opposite of the river. And then you got some type of terrain which doesn't look like it's full textured, but you get some type of idea of what it's going to look like when you come to Monolith in the next coming months, or whenever it does get released. The mid position has no shortage of things they can do in a match. A great mid player can prioritize these things in a way that aligns best with team strategy. On Monolith, we're leaning on enabling the mid lane to ensure that a match is dynamic and never stagnant. The lane, a notable property of mid lane is its location, the middle of the map. Being the middle carries certain truths that should bleed into strategy. Aside from the jungler, the mid player is most likely to rotate into one of the other lanes. If we imagine the jungler as a role that can tilt the balance of lane pressure slightly, mid is the role that can shift the balance much more dramatically. A mid rotation represents a stronger team commitment to an objective. It could be to try and score a gank on the safe lane or hunt down the jungler in their own territory. Maybe just to play defense and allow their team to farm up. It's up to you. So this is talking about how lane rotations would work with the mid laner, because if you're a mid laner, you want to lane rotate because you have so much CXP, so much experience compared to the other people in the other off lanes or pretty much the side lanes, and what you want to do is go to rotate to one of those lanes and pretty much abuse the factor that you are so strong. That's how you get even more ahead, and obviously you're committing to a play which is going to give you crazy advantages if it does work out. Let's see what the next part is. A river runs through it. As you probably noticed, we've added a river that cuts through the heart of Monolith. The river acts as a sunken road that splits the map, connecting players quickly to other lanes, both jungles and the all-prime pits. The mid player will need to use the river to make quick and undetected rotations around the map. Teams will need to keep good vision in this area, as the rotation from the mid lane are much harder to detect on Monolith. Be sure to keep those wards out. So most likely, it seems like maybe the river section of this actual map is a fog area, so you can't see anything. That's why they're saying you should put a ward there, or put a ward to prevent the mid laner from ganking. So that is really interesting. Within this image, you see this guy pretty much in a high position, Gideon, and he's looking down at this river. And when you go towards the left-hand side of it, you can see another staircase. That's maybe entry to the jungle. I'm not exactly sure. It could be entry to one of the side lanes. It just depends how close it is. I'm most likely thinking that's a part of the jungle. So that will be really interesting to see how the jungle looks like in the future. So let's move on to the next part. So much to do. As we discussed, that the mid lane is a burden with a wide range of objectives. It can be daunting to undertake some of these things, especially when they can be back-to-back, one right after the other. If MOBAs are truly a resource game, then we must also consider player health and mana, another type of currency. Each action has a variable cost on players' health and mana. With only one health and mana bar to work with, a mid laner can feel stretched thin. And you can see how this river is looking right now. I'm guessing he's pretty much in one of the central points as seen by the minimap. He's pretty much midway through the river, and it looks like he's somewhat in the jungle area as well. And there looks like to be some type of buff. I'm guessing the blue buff is there by itself, as you can see, followed by this amazing river there. It looks pretty sick, to be honest. The actual image for this is nice. And let's see what they have to say here. In order to help the mid lane in the action, we've added some new objectives. We're calling them river buffs. So these are the new buffs that they did mention, but that we're going to talk about right now. Still not a good name. The river buffs are the short duration, high impact power-ups designed primarily for the mid laner, though anyone can grab them if they so dare. So these river buffs, whatever they're going to call them in the future, but now they're called river buffs, give a good advantage to the mid laner, but anyone can pick them up if they can get close to them. While we're still working out the specific details, intent is to reduce the cost of rotations actions by making them faster, sneakier, more powerful, or cheaper. With the addition of these river buffs, a mid laner can be all over the map without a ton of downtime. That concludes a quick overview of how we are thinking about the mid lane. It's shaping up to be a very exciting position on Monolith, and we can't wait for you to play it. See you next week, where we will take a look at the off lane. So that's interesting to go back to the off lane. They're going to talk about that, or pretty much go in more detail, since they did mention that with another video. But this is pretty sick. River buffs, especially faster, sneaker, more powerful, and cheaper. When you rotate, say if you fail to rotate, you can get a river buff to pretty much help you out. But what that river buff actually does exactly, I don't know. It just says that you can get more head with the mid laner, or with any hero that actually picks up a river buff. But looking at these images, it looks like Monolith is shaping to be something great, and I feel like this is like the basic imaging of the actual map. I feel like there's so much more detail, because you know with Agora there's like all this plant life everywhere. Right now it looks kind of dull, as you can see from the images. There's not much going on, it's just pretty much flat surface, and just showcasing the basic imaging or basic map of Monolith, which looks pretty sick either way. I just can't wait to see full texture and like ultra graphics and one of their full rendered photos in the future, because that would look bloody insane. So right now, it looks good. River buffs, mid lane. It's interesting how it's going to work. Obviously, the mid laner always has to rotate. That's the thing that occurs in every MOBA. And I always do it whenever I play in the mid lane in Agora. So it's pretty much the same mechanic. If you understand that, you'll be able to do it here quite easily, because you're still committing to that play. But because of the river buffs, you're able to, say if you fail that play, you go to get a river buff and gain your advantage, or come back to the same position as you were supposed to be if you stayed in lane against the enemy laner. So it's kind of interesting how it works. And I want to see what else we can do with this in the future. Hopefully they can bring more news about everything else that we need to know before the map is actually out, before they actually do public testing, because I feel like this is going to be one interesting experience. I know I'm a little bit hyped about this. I was supposed to do this video like at 4 AM yesterday, but I was dead tired and I just fell asleep straight away when I got on the computer. But that doesn't matter, that's why we're doing the video at this current moment, and I can't wait to see what else comes next for Monolith and anything else Paragon related. So mates, if you do enjoy this video, show your support by smashing that bloody like button. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video. And if you mates want to see more Paragon gaming content on my channel, all you have to do is share this with your friends and hit the subscribe button to become a mate today. And that is all for this video. Oh, time to go, but don't you worry, we'll be back very soon. Hey Judge boys, because you ain't seen nothing yet. I might be the only one thinking this, but if I'm going to play jungle, I'm stealing those river buffs guaranteed. And that it feels right.